Okay, let's unpack this incredible stack of sources on Byzantium. Imagine standing on the shores of the Bosporus, say, around the year 1000.
Right.
While a lot of Western Europe is, well, often called the Dark Ages here in Constantinople, it's buzzing.
Totally different picture. Golden domes, packed harbors. You can almost smell the spices and hear the chatter from all over the world.
Exactly. This is the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, Byzantium. The empire that, just refused to fade away when the western part crumbled.
And that's what this deep dive is all about, isn't it? Exploring that resilience. We're using these articles, these notes you've pulled together.
Yeah.
It's this civilization that kept the flame of classical learning and Christian faith alive for, what, 1,000 years?
1,000 years. So our mission really is to pull out the most compelling bits, the surprising facts, those aha moments from Byzantium's long story and its legacy.
Kind of a shortcut to understanding how it bridged the ancient and modern worlds.
Precisely. And how its light, maybe surprisingly, still touches us today.
So we're going on a journey from its unexpected rise through a glittering golden age.
Its tough struggles for survival.
And that incredibly dramatic final stand. We'll meet emperors, yeah, but also powerful women who shaped things, and just the ordinary people whose sweat and dreams built it all.
It's a story of triumph, sacrifice, amazing creativity, and, well, enduring brilliance.
And you listening might be genuinely surprised. We're talking connections to modern art, laws, even how people practice faith today.
Okay, let's dive in. Part 1, the shadow of Rome, the birth of Byzantium. It starts really in 330 CE. Emperor Constantine makes this huge decision.
Right. He takes this old Greek colony, Byzantium,
and says, this is my new capital, Constantinople, the new Rome.
And you have to remember, the Western Roman Empire at this point was in serious trouble, fracturing under pressure.
But Constantine saw something crucial in the east, specifically this spot.
Oh, the location was genius. Built on 7 hills, just like Rome, but crucially, it controlled the Bosporus Strait.
The bottleneck between Europe and Asia.
Exactly. Ships coming from everywhere had to pass through. Harbors jammed.
Yeah.
It wasn't just strategic, it was symbolic. A new heart for an empire determined to, well, carry on.
And it wasn't just lines on a map. Think of the human side families moving, artisans coming in to build these grand churches for the newly favored Christian faith.
While soldiers are standing guard because threats were already there, Persians, Goths, Huns. It wasn't a peaceful start.
And Constantine's own embrace of Christianity, that was huge, wasn't it?
Absolutely fundamental. It shifted the whole identity of the empire. Byzantium became this beacon for Christianity.
The Council of Nicaea, 325 CE, that he called. It wasn't just about theology, right?
No, I mean, it was, but it also helped forge a kind of unified Christian identity, a glue, really, for this incredibly diverse empire.
But it wasn't smooth sailing, challenges right away.
Oh, definitely. You had the tension, balancing old Roman ways with new Christian ideas and constant fear of invasion.
Like the Battle of Adrianople, 378.
Yeah, that was a massive shock. The Eastern Roman army basically wiped out by the Goths. A brutal early test.
But they didn't collapse, they adapted. And one thing the sources highlight is this incredibly sophisticated bureaucracy they developed.
Inherited from Rome, sure, but they refined it. Tax collectors, diplomats, engineers, land registers.
Sounds dry, maybe, but that admin machinery was vital. It kept the gears turning, even when things got rough.
It really shows it wasn't just about emperors. It was merchants bringing wealth, monks preserving texts. The whole society.
Which brings us to the 6th century and Emperor Justinian I. Now, he was ambitious.
Hugely ambitious. Trying to win back the West Italy, North Africa, stretch the empire thin, maybe.
But showed that resilience again. And you can't talk about Justinian without talking about Empress Theodora.
No way. What a figure. Former actress, becomes this, political powerhouse. Her courage during riots, her influence.
Proof that women could absolutely shape empires. Their story is just one of, love and pure grit.
A really powerful partnership.
Okay, speaking of power and brilliance, let's shift to the Golden Age. Imagine stepping inside the Hagia Sophia. It's 537 CE, just finished.
Yeah, the sources capture that feeling. You walk in and just, wow.
Yeah.
That dome, it seems afloat, light pouring in.
Breathtaking is probably an understatement. It wasn't just a building. One source calls it art, a declaration of divine favor.
And this whole period, roughly 6th to 9th centuries, it's this explosion of creativity.
The mosaics.
Ah, the mosaics. Glittering gold, deep blues. Christ Pantocrator looking down. those eyes.
They weren't just decorations, were they?
No. They were meant to connect you, the viewer,
Yeah.
to the eternal. Like a prayer made of paint and stone. Deeply spiritual.
And this art was tied so closely to faith and also to preserving knowledge. You picture those monks.
Right, in the scriptoria, lamplight, painstakingly copying Plato, Homer.
While libraries in the West were struggling.
These monasteries became like fortresses of knowledge, absolutely crucial.
And think about the individual artists. The sources suggest a fictional story, like Maria, an artisan.
Weaving these incredible silk tapestries, maybe. Stories of faith woven thread by thread, hands calloused.
Then maybe an economic downturn hits. Her workshop struggles.
But her determination, maybe it inspires her whole village. They rally, turn their homes into looms. It speaks to that collective spirit, that resilience.
That's a great image. And their influence wasn't just internal, they had serious soft power.
Oh yeah. Foreign visitors to the Great Palace in Constantinople, they were meant to be awestruck.
Mechanical lions that roared, a throne that went up and down on hydraulics. Seriously.
Sounds like something out of fantasy, but apparently real. It wasn't just showing off. It was about intimidation, impressing rivals without needing an army. Clever stuff.
And their diplomats weren't just negotiators. They used golden guile, the sources say.
Masters of the game, forging alliances, managing threats. Plus, those trade routes.
All the way from China to Spain, Britain, bringing in silk, spices.
And ideas. It made Byzantium this incredible global crossroads, a real melting pot.
But even this golden age had its dark chapters. The iconoclastic controversy, 8th and 9th centuries. That sounds intense.
It really was. It tore the empire apart, basically. It was this huge debate over religious images, icons.
So emperors banning them, fearing idolatry?
Exactly. Versus monks, nuns, ordinary people risking death to hide them, believing they were vital conduits to the divine.
Wow. So it wasn't just theological, it was personal, deeply personal.
The sources talk about neighbors denouncing neighbors, families split over it. How do you honor God? Can you use images? It was a profound human drama.
Until the icons were eventually restored in 843. The triumph of orthodoxy.
Yeah, a huge moment. A victory, really, for the artists, for the believers. Faith and beauty winning out over fear in their eyes.
Okay, so fast forward a bit. By the 11th century, things are changing again. The world feels more hostile.
Definitely. Byzantium starts to feel more like a fortress under siege. Wave after wave of invaders, the Seljuk Turks, Normans.
And then the Crusaders.
But first, a major blow. The Battle of Manzikert in 1071.
Right, against the Seljuks. What happened?
A really bad defeat. Cost the empire most of Asia Minor, its heartland. A real gut punch.
Yet even then that resilience kicks in. Emperor Alexios Komnenos. He turns to the West for help.
And, kind of ironically, unintentionally helps kick off the First Crusade.
So the Crusades were complicated for Byzantium.
Hugely.
Yeah.
A double-edged sword. Sometimes allies, yeah, but it also showed their weakness, and the mistrust between East and West just grew.
Which led to the absolute disaster of 1204, the Fourth Crusade.
A horrifying betrayal. These Western European crusaders, supposedly on their way to fight for the Holy Land.
They turn around and sack Constantinople instead, their fellow Christians.
Exactly. Sacked it brutally.
Yeah.
Looted treasures, desecrated the Hagia Sophia.
Yeah.
Just unimaginable horror and destruction. The sources paint a devastating picture.
An event the empire arguably never truly recovered from.
Never fully. But again, that spirit. Think of a fictional kid, maybe Nicephorus, hiding in a church, watching his home burn but vowing to rebuild.
And they did rebuild, didn't they, under the Paleologus dynasty?
They did. They reclaimed the city, restored it as best they could. It speaks volumes about their determination.
And this period, after 1204, becomes one of almost desperate reinvention. Scholars racing against time.
Yeah, and the libraries that remained, frantically copying Aristotle, Euclid, trying to save these ancient texts as new threats loomed, ensuring they survive for us.
And women still playing key roles, like Anna Komnene.
Right, Emperor Alexios' daughter, a brilliant historian chronicling her father's reign, the Crusades. With sharp insight, almost a poet's eye, she preserved their legacy.
It shows women weren't just behind the scenes, they were actively shaping policy, culture, even history writing.
Absolutely. But survival had a cost. Huge cost.
Relying on foreign mercenaries, draining the treasury.
Internal fighting, plots, weakening them from within.
And then the Black Death hits in the 1340s.
Just catastrophic, wiped out a massive chunk of the population. Imagine being a farmer, watching your family die.
Utter despair.
Yet somehow, the next season you're out there planting seeds again. Driven by what?
Hope.
Duty, sheer grit.
That captures it. facing what must have felt like the end of the world, but still fighting, still believing their city was special, maybe even God's chosen city.
That belief carried them through so much.
Which brings us to the final legendary stand, May 1453.
The scene is set. Massive Ottoman cannons pounding the ancient walls of Constantinople. Sultan Mehmed II, just 21 years old, but a brilliant leader.
Leading this huge army, outnumbering the defenders maybe 10-1.
And inside, Emperor Constantine XI. He becomes this symbol of ultimate resistance, rallying everyone, soldiers, citizens, monks, women.
In the city's final hours, heartbreaking courage. You picture the churches packed with people praying, soldiers saying goodbye to families, a city united in defiance.
It really was a clash of eras, wasn't it? Ottoman gunpowder, this new terrifying technology, against walls that had stood for 1,000 years.
Innovation versus tradition, writ large.
And they held out for 53 days. An incredible feat of defense, using everything they had: catapults, that famous Greek fire.
Imagine being there, like the fictional Irene the sources mention, maybe a young woman on the walls, hands raw, helping, fighting not for glory, but just for her home, her city.
That spirit must have been everywhere, thousands like her.
But eventually, May 29th, the walls are breached.
The Ottomans pour in, and Constantinople, the heart of Byzantium for over a millennium, becomes Istanbul, the end of an empire.
A tragic end, no doubt, but the sources stress, even in defeat, the legacy wasn't wiped out, it scattered.
Exactly. Those scholars we mentioned, fleeing the city, carrying manuscripts to Italy.
Which helped fuel the Renaissance in Western Europe. That's a massive impact.
Huge. Ideas and texts, Greek philosophy, science that had been preserved in Byzantium suddenly re-emerging in the West.
And even the Hagia Sophia, becoming a mosque, yes, but those incredible mosaics.
Preserved under plaster for centuries. Some see it as a kind of respect, even from the conquerors, for the sheer beauty they found there.
And Emperor Constantine ES reported last words, "For faith and fatherland." They still echo, don't they? A call to courage.
Absolutely. So the fall was a tragedy, but also a transformation. Byzantium's ideas didn't vanish.
They seeded the modern world, as one source puts it, scattered like stars across a new sky.
You see it in Renaissance art, influenced by icons. Enlightenment thinkers engaging with Roman law, preserved by Byzantium. Its end was also a kind of dispersal.
And this whole epic story, it's not just ancient history. The sources suggest it holds up a mirror to dilemmas we still face. It's not all triumphs.
Not at all. Take faith, for instance. Christianity was a source of immense strength, unity.
But also division, like the iconoclasm fight we talked about.
Exactly. Was it right to venerate images? Did it risk idolatry? That wasn't just abstract theology. It tore families apart, remember?
Yeah.
Deeply personal, deeply divisive.
And power. Emperors like Justinian had almost absolute power, but that same ambition could push the empire too far.
And the danger of alliances. The Fourth Crusade is just the starkest example of how help can turn into betrayal.
Imagine being that Byzantine diplomat. Do you bribe an enemy, possibly bankrupting the state, or risk a war that could destroy everything? The moral weight.
These are dilemmas that echo, aren't they? How do societies balance faith and reason, tradition and progress? The Byzantine experience shows how human choices, often made in difficult gray areas, really do shape history.
Which leads to that challenging question the material poses. What are we willing to preserve, and at what cost?
It's a powerful question. Because Byzantium's 1,000 years, it's more than just dates and battles. It's this incredible tapestry of human spirit, faith, art, law, sheer resilience.
And you can still touch it today. Those mosaics in Ravenna, Italy, still stunning.
Legal systems around the world still carry echoes of Roman law that Byzantium nurtured.
And the Orthodox Christian faith, shaped so profoundly there, is alive for billions.
And think about those scholars again, fleeing, sparking the Renaissance. It's proof, maybe, that light can endure, that knowledge finds a way.
You can even feel it, perhaps, walking into the Hagia Sophia today, as the sources suggest. Feel the layers, the prayers, the art, the courage.
It connects you. Byzantium's story, in a sense, becomes part of our story. The bigger human story of striving, building, trying to create something lasting against the odds.
It's a call, maybe, to cherish knowledge, create beauty.
To stand firm when things get dark.
So the final thought, the question Byzantium leaves for you, listening now, is simple but deep.
What will you preserve? What light from your own life, your own time, will you carry forward?
See yourself in that long chain spanning millennia, and let maybe a little of that Byzantine courage, that creativity, let it inspire you to build, to believe, and, well, to endure.